Thunka, 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 thunka. Alright, everyone. Good morning. This is Fulldumpmoto here. Going to be bringing you a review. One more review video of this. I think it's a 2007? 8? Suzuki DL650, or also known as the V-strom 650. I think this is the first generation V-strom that Suzuki had made. And I'm just going to talk to you guys a little bit about it. See what it's good at, see what it's not good at. Yeah, so we'll get this review going, get on the road, see what I have to say. Alright everyone, so as I said, this is a Suzuki DL650 slash V-strom 650. This is one of Suzuki's, well, like I said, I think this is the first generation DL650 or V-strom. So this is Suzuki's 650 Adventure Tourer. Don't know how long they've been making it now. Like, I don't remember when the first one had come out, maybe 2005 or something like that. I'll look it up, and if I can remember, I'll put it in the description, or maybe just put it in the video here. But yeah, this is one of Suzuki's Adventure Tourers. They also have the DL1000 or V-strom 1000, which is definitely more of a big boy tourer. So I guess I'll just run over quickly some of the specs. You have yourself a 650cc, I guess it's like a 90-degree V-twin, or whatever they call it, like L-twin or something. So 649cc twin, putting out roughly 70 horse. I think it's like 67 horse or something like that, and 45 foot-pounds of torque. You got yourself a 6-speed transmission, chain drive. Yeah, she's kind of she's a little bit of a beast for being a 650. She's got quite a lot of pep and pull. I think more so than the newer V-stroms. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like the newer V-stroms are making a little bit less power. They also are, though, a lot lighter and thinner. This one is quite a rig. It feels like they took, like, it feels like the DL1000 and then this one, they look almost exactly the same. Obviously the 1000 is just a little bit chunkier, but it looks like, or it feels like, they made the 1000 first and then made this 650 variant as well, and they kind of just threw the 650 engine into the 1000 body. At least that's what it looks like to me. A lot of people were coming up to me when I've been borrowing this from a friend while my bike is going through some repairs. But a few of my friends, especially one of my friends who has an Africa Twin, he was saying that he was like, that looks like a 1000, but it's not. It's a 650. I was like, I know, right? It's kind of big for a 650. So yeah, it just feels like they made the 1000 first, and then like afterwards we're just like, ah, fuck it, just cram the 650 engine into this body. So she's quite hefty and chunky. Definitely a really good tourer. I've already taken this on a few little trips, if you would say, like just bombing around well outside, like maybe 2 hours outside of Halifax, doing some back roads and light trail work with this thing. They would like to say that it is an adventure tourer, and it most certainly is, probably in someone's more capable hands than mine. I'm quite a thin guy with a slender frame, and I definitely feel the weight of this thing once it really starts to slow down and, tip. The bike is roughly 485 pounds, I think it is, with a full 22 liters of gas all filled up in it. So 485 pounds is definitely not something to snot at. She is quite hefty. But I took it right onto the highway, as you can see, because I just wanted to show that she is very, very comfortable on the highway and has decent power when it comes to, you know, kind of going onto our highways. Here in Halifax, the highway speeds are, they say max 100 to max 110, and this thing can easily do that all day long without even struggling. We're already doing 120 kilometers an hour at, you know, 5,500 RPM roughly, and she has no complaints over it. All the weight, especially since she's a little low slung, all the weight just kind of keeps you planted on the highway. Even on a day like today, it's a little windy and kind of bustly right now, but she's not complaining at all. She's not, you know, shifting from side to side. She's holding the line really true. And I can kind of just like set my hand here and kind of get into a comfortable position and just kind of keep going. Plenty of passing power, plenty of power to actually get you in trouble should you want to do that. And can hold, you know, 120, 130, 140 like all day without really complaining. Once you get it past about 6,000, 6,500 RPM is really where she starts getting really buzzy. But again, it's nothing really to complain at because the buzz is minimal on this bike. You kind of get the tinglies in your hand and your feet a little bit, but it's really comfortable to just kind of sit here and kind of cruise like this all day long. I don't really know what the seat height is. I think it's maybe 33 inches. It has a dipped seat, so it's not like you're sitting on top of the bike. You're kind of sitting in the bike. So the seat kind of dips down, and that actually makes it pretty darn comfortable. You can kind of straddle the tank with your legs here and just kind of relax. I will say that the foot pegs on this bike, and my friend Ryan kind of agreed with me on this, the foot pegs on this bike, while it is a tourer, when it comes to the quote-unquote adventure side of it, it feels like they kind of put the pegs a little further back. And so when you're kind of standing up off-road or on, like, you know, fire trails and such, it kind of feels a little bit like you're leaned like forward on the bike, which isn't ideal when you're going off-road. It just kind of makes things feel a little bit more uncontrolled. But overall, she's not really designed for, you know, any heavier duty off-road trails rather than just like gravelly dirt fire road trails. You know, once you start getting into the technical side of things, like yesterday we took a trail and it started getting really rocky and really like shaly, like the shale rocks were showing up, and at that point the bike really wasn't happy. You know, it was sliding a little bit. I mean, granted, the tires on this thing need to be changed, especially the rear, but she just didn't like to do that, and all the weight, you could really feel it at that point, just kind of sinking and sliding a little bit. So that's not what she's made for. She's definitely made for the touring aspect of it, and everything that comes with an adventure bike in a touring package. But yeah, no, she did pretty well off-road. As long as you hold your line and choose your path correctly, she won't really complain. It's just once it starts to get a little bit more technical that you really got to slow down and do tighter maneuvers. She's not about it. What else haven't I mentioned? We have on the screen here, it's not really a screen, you have analog where you need it for speed and for your gauges, and then you have a little digital center which has, like, you know, your temp, fuel, your clock, and a few, you know, your trip A, trip B. So that's kind of it for, you know, the cockpit of this bike. And then obviously you just have your simple switches on the side over here, just high beam, low beam, horn, turn signals, yada yada. The newer model V-stroms, the 650 and the 1000, I don't know what the 650 is doing for modes, but there is like a mode selector dial on it. Again, I'm not really sure. Maybe it's just to like disengage and engage the ABS or the traction control if it has that. But I don't think it has anything mode-wise outside of just those settings. So like I said, you have a 22-liter tank. With mileage, I'm not really sure what I'm getting for mileage, but I wouldn't be surprised if I was getting in the upper like 400s to 5. Well, actually, I think it's more than that. I think I'm getting about 500 and something kilometers to a tank before I need to fill up. So definitely made for the touring side of things. You could go all day long on this thing and probably still get home after a 4-hour ride and not need to fill up more than halfway. So she definitely gets you out there and kind of lost. And the fuel economy on it, like I just said, it's really good. So I'm assuming it's just sipping gas. When I had my KLR 650, that one was a 21-liter tank, and she was getting about 450-ish kilometers of range. That's, I think, with reserve, but I can't quite remember. Whereas this guy, yeah, you're getting about 500 plus kilometers of range on one tank, no problem. With the bigger size, I already mentioned to it on the highway, but you do get quite a good bit of wind deflection. And it also makes it kind of nice if you get stuck in a little bit of rain. As long as you keep moving, you don't really get wet. So that was my buddy Ed. He's probably going out to economy. What's up, Ed? But yeah, so as long as you keep moving, if you get stuck in a spot of rain, you're not really going to get too wet on it. The bike does a fantastic job of deflecting all of that that's coming at you. Obviously, the moment you stop is when you're going to start getting a little bit wet. The windscreen on this bike is adjustable, and it actually does a fairly good job. I think I have it, I don't know if it's in the top position or the middle position, but it does a really good job for a stock windshield. The only complaint about it, and I experienced this yesterday when I raised it, is, my God, is it complicated to, adjust. I know this is one of their first models of this style of bike. Yeah, this is one of their first models and styles of this bike, so simplicity for the windscreen wasn't, I'm sure, too much of a factor. But I know you got to take like the front windscreen brackets off, and then you got to take out 2 more screws, followed by 4 Allen key bolts, which, holy shit. So, Ryan's Africa Twin, it's just twist 2 knobs and pull, and then twist them back, that's it. Like, really quick. You could do it on the highway, just put cruise control on to do it. But on this bike, you kind of have to tell your buddies, hey, pull over for a minute, I'm adjusting the windscreen, it's going to take me a minute. Grab yourself a coffee. So that's not really, it's nothing to complain about, really. It's just something that I noted, and I was like, oh man, I thought this was going to be easier, but totally fine. But the windscreen stock, it does a really good job of deflecting wind. I have it in the upper position because I'm kind of a tall, lanky guy, so I felt that the windscreen in its stock position was just buffeting wind a little bit too much into the crown of my helmet, and was kind of making my head bobble. But in this position, no, it's great. And I can see through the windscreen should I need to. And I'm sure in the rain, it just does an even better job of deflecting everything. So she's awesome. Like I had said, it has about 67 horse. This bike also does have 99,904 kilometers on it, so we're about to roll over to 100K, which is awesome. The reliability of these engines, as everything that I've looked into, it's insane. Like, you could, you can do that with any bike, right? Like, you can roll over and still be good so long as you've maintained everything, but on this bike, for sure, you can roll it, and it still wouldn't really complain as long as you do your bit. What the heck is this? Oh no! Alright. Well, looks like we're sitting still for a minute, guys, so I guess I get to keep talking about this. But yeah, the reliability of these engines, as I've heard and watched reviews of them, like people that have like 200,000 on them and such, they've all said the same thing. It is dead reliable, and they've never had an issue. So I'm sure, we're at 99,000 now. I'm sure that's the case with case, and it's just going to keep motoring and outlive the owner that has it. You have ABS on this bike, but I know that the front pads on this bike need to be changed desperately. They're quite low, so I'm sure that equates to some of the power. But the front brakes on this bike are super squishy, and the rear is super strong. And so I think it would take like a metric ton of pressure on the front and rear to engage any ABS. Because I've kind of grabbed a little bit at the levers a couple times just to see, and it doesn't engage the ABS even a little. So I don't know at what point it would engage, but as it stands, it has ABS, which is nice to have. So yeah, for being the twin that it is, it revs decently high. It revs to about, it says 10.5, red line completely at 12, so I've never gotten it even close to the 10.5 limit. I've gotten it to about 8,500 RPM. This isn't my bike, so I'm not going to just like abuse it, but I think she kind of wakes up after 6,000 RPM, and you can really feel the pull of it around that point. So it's awesome. But she also doesn't mind being lugged, since it is, an adventure style bike. You can kind of lug it if you're doing any kind of fire roads and stuff, and you kind of hit like a hill and you need to kind of crawl at it. You can lug this bike and it doesn't seem to really complain, which is great. But I don't know if it's. I think it's his bike. So this is my buddy Matt's. I'm pretty sure it's just the way that he has his clutch lever set. He has these like aftermarket shorties ones, which I really, not a fan. I don't know if he's the one that put those on or if it was the previous owner. But the clutch on this bike is instant. So, when you've been riding for a long time, and everyone knows the term feather the clutch, right? So you find the friction zone, and you're kind of entering in and out of the friction zone while you're also using a bit of throttle, and you're feathering it in U-turns or tight situations like that. On this bike, on my bike, let's say the TU and the KLR when I had it, and every other bike, the clutch engagement was maybe like halfway out from like fully pulled in to fully out. Some of them a little earlier, but this one, it's like you have to pull the damn thing all the way to the grip, and then the moment you start letting it out, it's engaged, and it's like it kind of makes it a little bit achy on my hand, especially when I'm doing slow speed, like anything that's like crawling through the city and rush hour traffic, or a little bit of off-road yesterday when I was like feathering in and out a lot. My goodness, it was cramping my hand up. And the clutch isn't necessarily heavy, it's just the fact that you have to pull it all the way in, and then it instantly is already pulling. So that's a clutch adjustment that you could make, but on this bike at this time, that's just something that it does, and I'm not going to change it because it's not mine. So I'm sure, on a stock one or brand new or whatnot, it's probably not like that. It probably engages out a little bit more. So yeah, the throttle on this bike, like the mapping, is really good. It doesn't have any like twitchy on-off like throttle response to it. Most fuel-injected bikes, especially like lower CC ones, they all have like kind of twitchier throttles, and you need to get something to compensate for that, like booster plugs and stuff, which the TU has, and it smoothed it all out. But on this bike, you don't need it. It's pretty darn smooth. It engages when you want it to, and disengages, and it doesn't kind of sputter and jump and all that. So it's really good. I really do like it. What time is it? Do I have time for a bite? Yeah, I think so. Anyways, guys, I think that's pretty much all I have to say for now about the Suzuki DL650. A great adventure touring bike, iron strong, outlive the owner, I'm sure, with just how reliable and, you know, low maintenance these bikes are, I'm sure. Besides your usual things, tires, chains, oil, yada yada, I don't imagine there having to be a big cost on these guys, like internal repairs, engine stuff or whatever. Like, I feel like everything on this is really solid, unless you're going hard off-road and taking it in spots that I'm sure the bike doesn't really like. I don't see there being much damage being done to this bike. For me, it's not like I enjoy the bike, but I know my capabilities as a rider, and just like taking in my frame, my body build and all that into account, this bike wouldn't be much for me in terms of properly being able to handle this bike. Like, going straight and doing low speed maneuvers and stuff isn't too bad on this thing. It just comes to, for me, pushing it around and moving it around, and, you know, parking spaces and things where you have to like fight with the weight a little bit. Just for me, I'm a thin guy, so it's a lot of bike in some ways for me. The power isn't the problem. It's all just the weight of it and the way that it's kind of held. So I would recommend this bike to anyone that's got a bigger build and is maybe like six foot, you know, like taller people. Like they'd fit this really well. I'm 6 foot on the dot, so it's not I'm not tippy-toeing on it like at all, but I definitely would like to have more flat foot control with this thing if it were me and if it were my bike. So it's definitely a fun bike though. It really is. And I mean, the power of it, what can you say? It's, you know, 70 horsepower torque. It's great. It's got plenty of pull. More than you'd ever need. I always think that the TU, being the smallest bike that I've had, is still like my, you know, my favorite city city dweller bike. It's perfect for everything, and it can handle a little bit of distance. It's just, you know, you're just going to have to be patient with it. But obviously this thing is made the opposite. This thing is made, it handles itself just fine in the city. It doesn't complain. It doesn't get too hot from crawling around the city, but you know that it wants to stretch its legs, right? Like, you know, it wants to go the distance and kind of go for a tour. You know, you throw your leg over this thing in the morning and you're like, all right, where do I want to go today? And you go exploring. And that's kind of what these bikes are meant for. You know, throw the saddles on it and a rear top box or something, and you're good for a long while. You could go on some really long tours on this thing, take it to the end of the country and back, and it would never complain. So if that's what you're looking for in a motorcycle, this is definitely one of them. If you can find them used online and they're in good condition and, you know, mechanically sound, I don't see why this wouldn't be a great, perfect option for someone. It's amazing. Just for me and what I like to do as a rider, and like I like low speed, technical, like throw it around type bikes. This guy kind of falls into the corners more than you can kind of flick and lean it into the corners, and that's just kind of how it's made to run. So you can definitely get low on it, and it holds itself really nice in the line, like through a corner. But I just like smaller and lighter bikes. So thank you, Matt, for letting me borrow this for a little bit while my bike undergoes some repair. And that's all I got for the V-strom / DL650, guys. So thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next video. Keep the two wheels down, stay safe, ride safe. All right, goodbye, guys.